Hey everyone, Marathon Hurley here, back with a bonus episode of Final Fantasy VIII. What I want to talk about today is how you upgrade your weapons, limit breaks, and a little bit about GF abilities, because I realized there's a lot of information that I didn't give you throughout this playthrough, and I want to make sure that you have an idea of what to do with all that as you are doing your level grinding and as you are doing your farming for items. Now, as far as weapons go, Final Fantasy VIII is a little bit different than most RPGs in the sense that you don't actually buy your weapons, nor do you find them in items or in treasure chests or in dungeons and whatnot. Instead, you upgrade your weapons using components. And so it's a lot like Chrono Cross, but a little bit more difficult because the items aren't consistent across all the characters. As you can see here, once you go into a weapon shop, I'm using an ability that simulates a weapon shop, which I'll talk about in a second. But once you go into a weapon shop, you can choose a character, and then you have the list of upgrades that are available to you. Upgrades can be made available to you in two ways. First, you can find a weapons monthly magazine, which I have all of them here. And if you have a magazine and you click on one of them, it will show you the items you need for an upgrade. Once you've got a magazine and you've opened it up, those weapons will then show up on the weapon shop menu so that you can see all the items you need more readily. The second way an upgrade is made available to you is if you happen to have the items already, then it will automatically show up even if you haven't seen it in a magazine. But for those of you who weren't using a guide or didn't want to see exactly what items you needed, you would need to use the Weapons Monthly magazine to do that. And then from there, all you got to do is pick up or go to the junk shop, pick the upgrade you want, and then you're good. Now, an interesting thing about this game, and something that you probably won't use, but just as an FYI, you can actually downgrade your weapons if you want to. So I have the Lionheart equipped, as you can see, but if for some reason I wanted to go back down to the revolver, I could. I don't know why you would want to do that, but it's there. And that's basically it. Now, the ability that I'm using to simulate the weapon shop is an ability that you can learn from Doom Train. As you can see, it's complete there. I think he actually might come with Junk Shop already. I don't think you have to learn it. But even if you do, at this point I've shown you a great AP grinding spot, which is Cactuar Island. It won't take you more than a couple of minutes to learn that. So that's really all there is about weapons. It's pretty straightforward. I've already shown you where you can get most of the items. And I've also put in the guides. I've also linked some guides in the previous episode, which told you where you can find those items. So I'm not going to go over that again. I just wanted to show you at least how you would go about upgrading weapons, because I never actually showed myself upgrading weapons on screen. The second thing I want to talk about are limit breaks. And I realized I didn't show up a lot of limit breaks in this game and in my playthrough. So I want to clarify a few things just for your information. First, let's talk about Squall and his limit break. This is one that we've seen before. It's the Renzokuken. He does a combo where each hit you have a chance to pull the trigger to do extra damage. At the end of that combo, there's a chance that he might do a finishing move. And the chances of him doing a finishing move are based on what is called his crisis level. And this is going to apply for every character in the game. Based on their crisis level, their limit breaks change a little bit. And your crisis level is determined by two things. One, the level of health that you have, and secondly, whether or not you have aura on you. So if you have very low health and aura on you, then your crisis level is higher, then it's more likely that you're going to be using a finishing move. The higher your health, or if you don't have aura, the less of a chance you're going to be using a finishing move. He comes with the Rough Divide. These other four abilities are learned by upgrading your weapon. Now obviously, since there are 7 upgrades, but only four weapons, or 4 finishing moves, you're not going to get a new finishing move for every weapon you upgrade. But if you upgrade your weapon to a higher level and one that kind of skips a previous finishing move, so let's say you only have Rough Divide, then you upgrade to the second best weapon in the game, which would give you Blasting Zone. Any abilities before that you don't know, you will learn after what you upgrade. So I went straight from the Revolver to the Lionheart, then I'm going to learn Blasting Zone and Faded Circle along with Lionheart. And His limit breaks are one of the best, if not the best in the game. Lionheart does a ton of damage. These other ones aren't very useful, but Lionheart, I think it does 18 hits, all at max damage, so you're talking like 180,000 damage. And even if I'm off by a hit or two, it's still well over 150,000 points of damage on that alone, not to mention the Renzen-Kuken combination itself. So, very powerful limit break. That's how you get those. That's all there is to that. Now we have Quistis. Quistis' limit breaks are the blue magic spells, and I've already shown you which one is really powerful, the Degenerator ability. The rest of these aren't super useful. I mean, I've shown you where you can get a lot of these items, but most of them aren't useful. I mean, Mighty Guard can be useful. It can put like Shell, Protect, Aura, Regen, all that good stuff on, but still, we're so powerful, it's not generally that useful. The abilities that are missing are, I think, Laser Cannon or something like that, which we can learn by using the Laser Cannon item that we obtained from the Elastoid. You can also get that from a boss later in the game. There's also the White Wind ability, which you can get from the Adamantoises that I showed off earlier. I think you need to mug them from them, and you'll get a Whisper, and that will teach her White Wind. And then there's Shockwave Pulsar, which requires Dark Matter, which I mentioned in the last episode. Overall, her limit breaks aren't that useful, but that's how they work. You get items from enemies or cards, and then you can learn abilities from there. Irvine has the Shot ability, and his is I would consider the second best limit break in the game. I've already shown off how you use that, but I want to show off where you get ammo from. Now, you can buy normal ammo and shotgun ammo at most shops, but to get better ammo, you need the Ammo Refine ability, which Ifrit can learn, but he has to be at level 10 to be able to learn that ability. And as you can see here, you can see all the different types of ammo he can use. So we can refine Energy Crystal into Pulse Ammo, which we need for an upgrade for Squall's ultimate weapon, but is also the best ammo in the game. We have AP ammo there, we have fire ammo, more fire ammo, I think, and demolition ammo, dark ammo, and I think that's everything. There's also fast ammo, which you can refine from normal ammo, and you might be able to get elsewhere as well. Now, in terms of the ammos, the pulse ammo is the best, but it's usually hard to come by. But if you farm enough energy crystals, you can have a pretty unlimited supply of that. The ammo that most people rely on is AP ammo because it's really easy to refine. You can get them from sharp spikes. You can also get them from chef's knives, which you can refine using, you can get those from tonberries or their cards. Demolition ammo is pretty powerful, but really slow. Dark ammo is basically normal ammo, but it inflicts status ailments on the enemy. And then there's fire ammo, which is also, I think, basically normal ammo, but it has fire elemental attacks. What's nice about Irvine is that he can do a lot of damage really quickly because he can, at high levels, his AP ammo will do 10,000 per hit, and if his crisis level is high enough, he'll get like 10 seconds to shoot. You can easily get off 6 or 7 shots, so you're talking like 60, 70,000 points of damage pretty quickly there. So that's his limit break. For Zell, Zell's limit break is called Duel, and the way that Duel works is it's basically one big flowchart, is how I would explain it. So you're going to start off, and they're going to give you 2 options, so maybe Punch Rush and Heal Drop. I can't remember exactly how it looks, but you get 2 options, and you also have a timer. You pick one of the options, the timer stops, he executes, and then it'll send you to another pair of items, and then you pick from there. Time is running as long as you're inputting commands. Once you put one in, time stops till you get the next set of options. And then if you pick your options in a certain order, then you have a chance to do a finishing move. In this case, he only has Burning Rave, but the way that you get more finishing moves is via the Combat King magazine. So let's see here. If I pick up a Combat King magazine, it shows off a new move, and then when I go back to his status menu, you'll see that he has more moves, more finishing moves there. And so I'm not going to actually show off, if you want to read the dialogue there, you can pause. But now that I go back to Zell's menu, look, he has all of these finishing moves added. So basically it's a flowchart, and depending on what combinations you pick, it might put you back to an earlier selection, or you might get to a finishing move from there. Now, the best way to use Zell's Limit Break is there are two moves, and I believe it's Punch Rush and Booyah, that if you choose one, it's always going to spend you back to another set of options which has the other. So if I pick Booyah, the next pair of options will always have Punch Rush. If I pick Punch Rush, the next set of options will always have Booyah, so on and so forth. So you can basically alternate between those two attacks and do so for as long as you can put commands in until time runs out. And that's really the way that you do the most damage with Zell's Limit Break. So you get his Crisis level high enough, he has extra time, and then you can just cycle between those two. The reason I don't like this as much, and the reason why for me it's the third best Limit Break out of the group, is that it just takes a while. I mean, it's not that long, but it's like if you really want to do it well, it's like a minute per Limit Break, which is fine, but like it's a long time to be sitting there just putting in commands back and forth. So really powerful. It could actually be more powerful than Squall, I've heard, but just takes a long time, so I don't use it that much. Let's see, who am I missing? We're missing Rinoa and Selphie. So let's start with Rinoa. Now, as you can see here, Rinoa has a number of abilities that she can learn. And she has two limit breaks. I've mentioned one, the Angel Wing, puts her into a Berserk status where her magic does more damage, and she'll pick up a random attack spell and use it until enemies are dead. Her other limit break is called Combine, and what it will do is it will draw a spell or draw an attack from this list here. I believe sometimes it's random if she's like low health. Sometimes you have to actually input the command from the limit break, and it'll choose one of these one of these abilities at random. The way you get abilities is by, well, there's two steps. The first is you have to get a Pet Pals magazine, which you can buy from a pet shop. Let's see, there we go. And then it will show off an ability. So you have like Angela Search here. Now I go back to her status menu, and that ability will now be available to us to learn. So we can now learn Angela Search. I pick an ability that I want to learn, and I walk around in circles or just walk anywhere I want. And after taking enough steps, Angela will learn the new ability. So I think the magazines even it says, walk your dog to make sure you're learning the abilities, and that's how you get these abilities. Of her abilities, only a couple are useful. Angela Cannon comes automatically. Angela Rush comes automatically. Angela Recover heals a party member, absolutely worthless. Angela Reverse revives a party member, also useless. Angela Strike attacks one enemy, guess what? That's useless. But that leaves you with Invincible Moon, which can be useful. But in retrospect, I kind of wish I would not have learned this because it's basically the same as a Holy War, and you're better off just refining Holy Wars if you really want to go the Invincible route. Angela Search can be useful. Angela will go and start looking for items randomly on the battlefield, and I've heard you can get some really good stuff doing that, but it takes a while, and any item that you really need, you can refine more easily. It's useful for people who want a perfect game and want to get 99 of everything, but that's not me, so yeah, I'm not worried about that. But the best ability, let's see if I have them. There we go. The most powerful ability that she has is Wishing Star. It's basically just like Lionheart in a sense, but weaker. It does a bunch of hits to the enemy, and it can do pretty high damage. The problem though is that it's random. Now the way you can maximize your possibility of getting it is just not learning the rest of the abilities. So if I didn't learn Invincible Moon and I only learned Wishing Star, she would basically choose between Angelo Cannon and Wishing Star. I think Angelo Rush is a counterattack maybe, so I don't think you have to worry about that being the limit break that she would use. So if you do that, then you can actually get her best limit break pretty often. But even then, it attacks all enemies, so like you're not going to hit just one target, you're going to hit everybody. If it's only a single target, it can still be useful, but it is a little bit random, so I put her below the three guys, but if you just learn Wishing Star, she can be pretty useful. Last but not least, well, actually she is kind of least here, Selphie. Her limit break is Slot, and the way Slot works is it gives you a spell and a number of times that it will cast a spell, and then you have a choice of whether or not to accept that or spin the slot again, in which case it'll give you a new spell and a number of times to cast. So for instance, you might start off with like Fire, cast 3 times. You could say, that's the basic spell, don't want that, try again. And then maybe you get lucky and you get Ultima 5 times, and then you could say, yes, I want that spell. But a lot of times, you'll get pretty useless spells, because unlike Rinoa, who will never use indirect magic, such as like sleep or aura or reflect or restorative magic, Selphie can. Selphie will use any spell in the game, so it's hard to, it takes a while to get useful spells. Magic isn't that useful to begin with, and the targeting is random, so that's all unfortunate. To compensate, the game tries to make her slightly more useful by giving her some special spells that she can use, and the first one you see here is Full Cure. And what it does is, it's basically a mega elixir. It heals your HP, gets rid of all your abnormal statuses. It can be useful early on, but after like the Diablo fight, there's just not much point to it, because you basically are never hurt that much, and even when you are, you're better off using Asuna or Cura or something like that. Next spell is Wall. Cast Protective Shell on your party, but is completely outclassed by Mighty Guard, and even then just isn't generally useful, because as you've seen up to this point, I don't really use Protector Shell, and I never do throughout the game. Next spell is Rapture, and it's basically an instant death spell. It'll take an enemy and fly them off the screen. However, I don't think you get experience for killing enemies that way, so I guess it could be useful if you don't have Card or don't have Petrify. You could try using that. But I don't think it's even useful on a large range of enemies, so it's like, yeah, I don't see that as being very useful. I prefer Card or using Break when you need to. And then finally, you have The End. And The End is the most powerful spell of all of them, and it's extremely rare. I've never actually seen it in a personal playthrough, although I've seen it on YouTube. It basically kills any enemy in the game, including the final boss, instantly. Any enemy in the game. And obviously that's pretty powerful. Now, 2 caveats here. One, again, it's really rare, so the best way to get it is when her health is really low, and when she has aura on her at the same time. The second thing is, if an enemy has multiple parts to it, so for instance, if you're talking about like Norg, and you use The End, it won't actually push you right to the end. What it does is it basically eliminates the HP of the current form, but then the next form will come up after that. So it doesn't just like completely end every battle, it only ends that form, and if the enemy only has one form, then you're fine, but if not, you still have to take care of the second form. So that's basically how Selphie's Limit Break works, but The End is so rare that it's not that reliable, and the rest of the spells aren't useful or are outclassed pretty early on. Last thing I want to talk about is GFs and GF abilities. I don't want to say much here, but in terms of the bonus abilities, I wanted to show that off. So for Ifrit, you need, if you want to get Strength bonus, you need Strength plus 40, Strength plus 20, then Strength plus 40, then to get Strength bonus. Same thing with Siren for Magic. The brothers have HP, but what makes them a little bit more difficult is that they have the HP plus 80 ability as well, so you have to learn that before you can get HP bonus. Carbuncle has Vitality. Where is it? Yeah, Vitality bonus with prereqs Vitality plus 20 and Vitality plus 40. Then Leviathan has Spirit bonus. So pretty straightforward there. Easiest thing to do, go to the Cactar Island, get AP there. I know I mentioned it before, but I at least wanted to show that off. And then I think that's basically it. I mean, I talk a little bit about how to sort out your GF abilities in the next episode, but I think that's basically it. There's not much more you need to worry about in terms of GF abilities. And anything you need, you can learn pretty easily as well. So, I think that's all I wanted to do for my bonus episode there. Hopefully you guys will find this to be of use. If there are any questions or if anything is still unclear, let me know and I can always make another bonus episode and throw it in. But until then, this has been Marathon Hurdler. I want to thank you as always for checking out my videos, and hopefully I will see you next time.